I'm the one person that watched that.
Oh, okay. Yes. Good.
Okay.
Good.
Teddy's the hard worker in this group.
I don't. It might speak to my life.
You get an
a
A
little
plus.
bit.
You get an A plus today, Teddy.
It might speak. I should have took my wife out to dinner and a movie.
Welcome into Boxing Scene's top stories on ProBox TV. Download the ProBox TV app. Never fall behind in your boxing news. Well, IBF did the Paulie thing. They actually stripped Canelo of his 168-pound title in order to facilitate the mandatory William Skull fighting Vladimir Shishkin in Germany. Well, it was a fight that not a lot of people saw, but William Skull is a new champion at 168. But where does that get him? The fight was controversial in that Shishkin is appealing the decision of the fight, which was unanimous. But does it really make him an opponent for Canelo? Canelo might take on a victorious Beterbiev once Beterbiev decides not to rematch Bivol. We don't know if that's happening, but Christian Mbili, probably a better opponent at 168. I'm with the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, and coach Teddy Atlas. Paulie, I know you applauded the IBF for stripping Canelo. Skull is now champion, but does that get him anywhere in terms of the big fight with Canelo? What's your thought?
I would. I mean, you can't really get a read on what Canelo's going to do or choose at this point. I think there's other names Canelo may be looking at. I do think if Skull looks, what's the word I'm looking for? Susceptible enough. You know, if he doesn't look too invincible, I do think that he gets considered. You know, like you got to be good, obviously, to get the Canelo fight. You can't just be a total wash. But at the same time, I think that the criteria for getting a Canelo fight right now is being good, but not too good. Like being good enough to to make the fight respectable in the public's eyes and in the network's eyes. So I'm not sure where Skull is in that regard at the moment. You know, but I can't see him becoming a front runner for this in this moment.
Chris, I got to out you here. When we talk about this fight on off air, you said, did anybody see this fight? Does anybody know about it? Does it point out the dangers of what the IBF did, which is strip Canelo, who is a household name in boxing, and having this mandatory fight with a guy that no one knows is champion? What's your thought on it, Chris?
Yeah, I think I said this on past shows. I mean, this is a good idea with bad execution. You know, stripping Canelo for someone who's not giving the opportunity to the next contenders in line, but then giving it to completely skipping over those next contenders and giving it to other guys doesn't make sense either. So good idea. Yeah, strip the champion who doesn't defend against the top contenders, but why are you going to give the fight to number 7 and 8? Or why are you going to give it to the guys past the top 5, the guys that are being avoided by the champion for the reason why he's getting stripped altogether? So it's a curious path for events here of how this fight actually came to be. And yeah, I mean, nobody really saw it. Does this get him a Canelo fight? I don't think so. I think the next fight for Canelo is going to be in Mbile. That fight makes a lot of sense. Unless Canelo wants to go on a world tour. If he wants to go over to Europe and fight Chris Eubank Jr. over at Wembley, I could see that happen. If he wants to go over to Japan, maybe bring Eubank over there and fight him over there, because he was seen with Inoue recently, Canelo that is. And in that case, then you might have an opportunity where Mbili gets the shot with Skull. Then you get Mbili becomes a world champion because he's likely going to beat Skull, and then that guy, or Skull beats him and that becomes more of a name opponent because he beat Mbili. Then Canelo fights him. But I don't know. I think it's going to be Mbili and Canelo in May.
Yeah, I think it's Caleb Plant's got an in with the IBF anyway. He's been the world champion before.
Okay,
so
whoever the next guy.
I can see Skull and Plant getting it on.
See, then champion, that makes sense because now Plant now is the world title.
Yeah.
So they get back to the rematch. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's all paths go back to Canelo, but it's not going to be next for Skull.
What are your thoughts, Teddy, about Canelo? Perhaps everyone's talking about a rematch with Bivol. That could still happen, even though coming off a controversial loss to Beterbiev. Where do you think the 168-pound king goes after this?
Look, first of all, I got a full transparency. I got to meekly raise my hand. I'm the one person that watched that.
Oh, okay. Yes. Good.
Okay.
Good.
Teddy's the hard worker in this group.
I don't. It might speak to my life.
You get an A plus. You get an A plus today, Teddy.
It might speak. I should have took my wife out to dinner and a movie, but we make mistakes.
But Teddy, was it that bad? Is that why you think?
It wasn't too great.
Do you regret
it? Wasn't too great.
I mean, Real Parmesan and a nice bottle of wine.
Would have been better than seeing Skull.
That might have been a little better, and it would have served me maybe a little bit better that I actually how I feel about myself that I stayed and watched
You
that.
took
I
one for
don't
the
know.
team. You took the one for the
Took
team.
one for the team, and now you're out of the circle of trust with your wife who wanted to be taken out.
You're in the circle of trust with us, though.
So tell us about it, Teddy.
Thank you. There's
Yes.
always something to gain. At the end of the day, look, it was I don't know how they gave it the way they gave it to Skull. Shitskin was aggressive the whole night. He looked bigger, longer. He was pressing with his jab, going to the body a little bit to right. He was pressing the fight. All Skull did, really, he was a pure counterpuncher. He laid back. He did not wait. I mean, our grandparents would have loved him at the dinner table because he didn't waste anything. I mean, he just very picked spots. He didn't do much leading. I don't know if he did any leading till late in the fight, and he just counterpunched the whole time. I thought that Shitskin was winning the fight until it got late in the championship rounds, where it got in the 10th and 11th, and Skull dominated those rounds. He put into another gear, whatever. He dominated those two, and then what happens in the last round, the 12th round? He gets hurt. I don't even know what hurt him. I think it was a jab by Shitskin, and it was the craziest thing you ever saw, guys. We've seen it before, but the way they handled it, he got hurt, and he just walked away. He just drifted away, stumbled away off to the other corner. And why Shitskin didn't go after him, that old saying, protect yourself at all times. I don't know why he didn't go after him, but he just groggily, he looked like he was, sleepwalking, and he walked the other way. The fight wound up ending like that. Obviously, Shitskin got the last round. I didn't. It was a close fight. They gave it pretty handily to Skull. I didn't see it that way. I wish I didn't see it anyway. In some ways, I don't mean to knock any fighters, so I'm not doing that. But at the end of the day, I will cap it with this, with a Paulie special, because, and I'm not talking about that great drink that they only have in Brooklyn and Manhattan, the Manhattans,
Manhattan special.
A Manhattan special. What a drink. What a good, oh man, it's a good drink. Anyway, wake you up espresso. I'm saying that he don't look like he deserves to be in the same arena with Canelo. He hasn't earned that. There's no doubt about that. And I'm not knocking him. I'm just doing my job. And he don't deserve that. That might be the reason why he gets it. And that's why I said I'm doing a Paulie special. And Paulie's right about this, where he might just look at it that it's such a walk in the park. He might want one while he's looking for that next big one, and he being Canelo, and take this, easy pickings. I think he's done that before. Take this, and because it's got one thing attached to it. Yes, it does not have the deserving quality of he earned the right to get that fight, of the quality of the fighter that Skull. It doesn't have that. But what it does have, it has one of these, another ridiculous title that they took from Canelo, gave to him, and that Canelo could say, I want to take it back. He could find a reason if he wants to go down that road to an easy one, while he's waiting for a tougher one or whatever you want to call it. He could say, I want to go take my thing back that you took from me. And he could justify it that way, and being that it is for a trinket. It is for another title that they just took from him. So in that way, do not rule out the possibility of Canelo. I know we don't want it. We want to see those other fights. I get it. And I know the clock is ticking with Canelo for the time, that he better make up his mind if he's going to take a Benavidez, if he's going to take a rematch with Bevo. He better do it pretty soon, because Father Time is banging at the door. At the end of the day, I think that what I just said is a possible scenario, even though it's not one that any of us would enjoy.
If he's going to take on a Benavidez or a Beterbiev, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. What are we saying over here, Teddy? If he's going to do that, come on, Teddy. He's not going to do that.
We don't believe he necessarily will.
I'll say this, with the IBF, Chris, you made a great point. Good idea, bad execution. and I don't want to sit here praising the IBF for making, doing, they're the consummate professionals of doing it right, because if you're going to follow the rules that are the standards, they got to be followed all the time. Okay, they did it this time, but then you know what other standard they broke? In a fight that, yes, we were excited about before it happened, and it happened the way it happened. You're not supposed to get a title shot coming off a loss. Tim Tszyu just got a world title shot coming off a loss. Okay, looking back now, obviously he lost. We were talking about it. It was a good fight, and you know what? We were all excited about it. But nonetheless, stipulations and regulations are supposed to be kept all the time, not when you feel like it.
Paulie, Spence and Fundora, they're fighting for 2 world titles. Spence
Yes,
coming off a loss.
I'm talking
and
about
a year out of the ring.
We
And never
already,
fought in the weight
we
class.
already know the other sanctioning bodies don't do anything anyway. Like they're not claiming.
Following suit.
They're not claiming to enforce rules. But the IBF is stripping Canelo and making the fight with Skull and Shishkin was claiming to, well, we have to follow the standard. Well, where was the standard when Tim got the title shot against Mustafa Zaliev? And I'll admit, I was excited about it. We all were excited about it. And I'm not complaining that the fight got made in and of itself. But when you come off a loss, technically, you're not supposed to get a title shot.
They're going to use the excuse, Paulie. In that one, they're going to use the excuse with the blood, with the bleeding, with the whole thing.
No, the crackerjack box degree having doctor, of course, that was all on him with Fundora. I'll tell you myself. But nonetheless, the result is the result. It's not supposed to happen that way. Whatever.
Well, they follow the rules when they feel like it, but we here at ProBox TV, we give you the boxing news every single time. Of course, it is going to be an interesting lottery when it comes to 168 pounds and who wins the Canelo sweepstakes. But Wednesday night fights are coming up. A main event rematch from Madison Square Garden. Do not miss it.
Wednesday night fights. In partnership with DeBella Entertainment, it's Broadway Boxing Heroes on the Hudson 2. With proceeds benefiting veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces. October 23rd. Don't miss Mio Yoshida as she defends her IBF Bantamweight World title in a rematch against Sharetta Metcalf. Live from the theater at Madison Square Garden. Wednesday night fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.